Alright guys, welcome back. Quick video to show you what little I've gotten done. It's kind of hard to get stuff going right now. I'm busy with life stuff, so I did fix the Aileron box issue. It wasn't too big of a deal, but something that I had to fix. I'm going to show you a couple things. The hardware, this is just for the Aileron servos. So let me get this off. Alright, so it should have looked like that. Box, you know, the servo box is centered inside the wing, which is what you want. But the other wing, sorry, you can see this is the edge of the box, how much it was. Literally like a quarter of an inch this way, which had this way out here, and you can see that this one was almost underneath. And before I realized it, I started trimming here, and then I was like, oh wait a minute, it's backwards, so I really didn't have to trim that, but not a huge deal. So what I did was, you can see the red, and then you see the new wood there. I glued basically a piece that goes back to the edge of the box underneath the old tray, and then stacked up to make it level with the original block. Epoxied that in and had to do some sanding here because this was so far out. I had to basically sand it down, trim this edge right here a little bit to get the servo in. So now it basically sits perfectly centered like it should. The hardware for the ailerons, typical L brackets, screws, and then you have these these bolts and washers that bolt the servo to the actual L bracket. Now the ones that come with it, the Skymaster ones, are just like this. I had some that are recessed. That way you get a flush. It's not a big deal here because the servos sit down, you know, into the wing, but if they were, you know, the type where it's a flush kind of fit, you need those recessed ones. But I like these better anyways. Bigger screw to hold it into the wood, and like I said, it's recessed, so when it's in there, it is get in there, it's flush. So it looks nice. The way the old kind was, you basically use a servo screw and it just sits on top, so it'd be like that. Just a personal preference. I had some of these other brackets, so I swapped them out with this type. But when you put it together, looks like that. 4 bolts or screws with washers. The only thing that to note about these is you kind of see it there. The L brackets kind of, it's hard to see, instead of being completely parallel to the side of the servo, they kind of bend out a little bit, and that's just because of the way these arms are. So if you're not careful, if you pinch these and then you put the screws in there, you're putting pressure on those, on the studs. So what I do is I put the brackets on, tighten them down, and you can kind of see that they kind of spread out a little bit, and then put them in the box and drill your holes that way. That way these, you're not basically forcing these together and putting kind of a stress on this. It's just a natural fit for them. And then I put the servo in. Kind of have to work the cable there. It kind of gets in the way. There we go. Alright. Make sure the servo is perpendicular to the trailing edge. Just something I do. Mark the holes. I use one of these little nifty little hole drillers because it's got this piece here, and those actually sit really nice in those beveled holes. Gets it perfectly centered, and then you can start your hole. You can actually even drill the servo or the screw holes with that, and that's what I kind of did. Went back with a drill all the way through, and then I ran the screws in, took them back out, dropped some thin CA into the screw holes to give it really good threads when you retap, so when you run the threads back through, it basically recuts those same threads inside there, and it gives it a real good, keeps it from stripping. So if not, you run a chance of stripping it without the CA. So just something that I do. But then that's in. This will be, it's kind of hard to see, I'm running the S-Bus system, so I've got this little guy here is what it's going to be for the aileron, and then the flap. I've already kind of started cutting the groove for the flap control horn, or servo arm, and then this will be mounted right here, and it's hard to see them, but you'll run that lead from the battery backer, and it'll just clip in there. It's a nice simple installation. This is what I used on the F-15. Worked out really great, really good. And I'm going to also run these air lines. The air lines for the landing gear. Instead of running them out this way, I'll just run them through this way, and they'll all come out here. Because in the fuselage, where this butts up against the fuselage, there's a hollow area. So that's kind of like, it's going to be the perfect place to cut a hole in the fuselage and have all my airlines connecting and the S-Butts connector. I'll probably make a little bracket that just glues in there like that. Kind of hold it, it's kind of hard to see, but that's the plan. Like I said, the gear is so nice, and just because I don't want to spend an extra $1,200 on it, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the air until I basically start having problems with it, or I get some more money to do the electric conversion. I thought about taking the electric motors off of like the F-15 and the F-14, just bolting them on here, because it's essentially the same thing. But I don't want to go tearing those apart, because like I said, I'm going to try to sell them, and that's kind of a good selling point. So well, that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and screw these in, put the aileron back on, and start marking for the control horn. The control horns, carbon. These are going to have to be glued in, and this is kind of the setup. You got two per control surface. This will go in the middle. It's a little ball with a bolt, and there's the nut. So they'll basically, you'll have one like this, and the other one goes here. So there's no twisting that can go on when you have like the control rod on one side of the arm, which is a nice feature. The looks like about a 3mm or so, I don't know the exact diameter is of this rod. Got the two little locking rings, your typical control clevis with the clip, which will go on the servo. The only one that has these type of ends is the ones in the wings, so ailerons and flap. Everything else is basically a double end, ball end, which I like better. I have some of these extra ones, so if I have any problems with getting this to work with the servo arms, I'll just put a ball on it. I've got extra ones, and it fits this thread, so that's what I'll do. If I don't know, I like it because it's simple, but then again, it's just it's hard to get a nice tight fit, because if that hole in the servo arm is not exactly that diameter, you're gonna get slop, and you don't want any play in these things. The servo play that develops is all you want, because if you get slop in the controls, there's just a chance you can get flutter type deal. So, but that's the plan. That's it. But you guys take it easy, and I'm gonna go ahead and get these servos put in, and start working on the next video. Till later, you guys have a good one.